That's true. Judah's daughter Liza did miss you. She liked Mikey, but she was crying for Xavier. She wanted you to.
That's why I had to come back.
Now, I mean, maybe what she missed was the treats, not you particularly. But we'll pretend for.
Oh, you're tough.
We'll pretend that it was you. So Xavier is back with us this week. We're going to have a really fun show today. We're going to be joined by Lexi Hutchins of Morehouse Studio, she is always fun, and that's such a great endeavor there that I think you'll be excited with. And then afterwards, we'll be joined by Andrew Beninti. He's the Senior VP for Charlottesville Brokerage. He's going to talk about the new Code building, the Center of Developing Entrepreneurs that's coming to the downtown mall. So we'll learn a little bit about.
That's an interesting building.
Yeah, an interesting building. How
I have a lot of questions for him.
Yeah, we have some challenge questions.
Oh, I don't know if that's
for
challenging.
Him. So be sure to share with your friends. Let everyone know that we're going to be live shortly. It's going to be a fun show for us today. And yeah, be sure to share, comment, let us know what you're thinking. Let us know if you have any questions. And we're going to get started shortly here.
We're going to be talking about ESG too.
Yes, we're going to start off with ESG. Thank you to Vanessa Parkhill for that question. We're going to be explaining what that is, what those three little letters mean and in the investing world. And some news also on Restaurant Revitalization Fund.
That's right. It's coming to an end, so it's important.
Exactly. Right? We'll share with you that date and some places, remind you where you can get some resources for that if you are a small business owner, a restaurant owner in particular.
All right. That's good. That's good because, that's so important for these restaurant owners.
If
anybody suffered through this whole thing, that was certainly one group. So anything that we can do for them.
All right. We are ready to go. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today y Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. As always, we're happy to have you join us. We're presented by Emergent Financial Services. We are powered by Cristel Noel State Farm, and we are partnering with Forward Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville, Virginia. And we have a very fun show for you today.
First of all, let me just say that I had withdrawal symptoms 2 weeks, not being in Today Mañana.
It's true, we did.
And I know it's going to be a challenge after Michael, but I'll do my best.
I mean, we sincerely pretended to miss you on the show last week. And so, I mean, I know all our guests were
like I said, I know one species that missed me, all right?
That's true. Liza
did
miss you.
So I was so excited to walk in, and she still recognized me.
Yes, she did. She did. Well, she the scent, they know their own, like we say.
Wait a minute. This is going downhill very quickly. Hold on.
So we have a fun show today. I mean, we'll start with a little bit of news and then get to a great question we had from Vanessa Parkhill that she asked to Jerry. And so the news is from friend of the program, amigo del programa, Johnny Ornelas. He tells us to remind everyone, Restaurant Revitalization Fund that we've been talking about for a few weeks now, that ends on Monday. Right. So this is an opportunity. It's like a second draw of a paycheck protection program that you can pull on as a restaurant owner if you've been heavily impacted by the pandemic. So that's still open. Remember, they're still prioritizing those small women-owned, minority-owned, Latino-owned restaurants. So remember, that closes on Monday. It's very easy. Application. The application's in, I believe, English and Spanish. And resources, there are so many. I mean, start with Small Business Development Center for Central Virginia. That's going to be your go-to there. They have webinars. You can find it on our Today Mañana Facebook page. Go there. You'll see the post with the webinar link. It was recorded in English and Spanish. They literally walk you through how to apply to this program, how to fill out the online application. Super easy. So be sure to share it with any Latino entrepreneurs, any restaurant owners that you know in these last couple days before that ends on Monday, because it's really important to make sure that word gets out and everyone who needs this help gets it.
Time is of the essence at this point.
It is. We're approaching the end. Yeah. Speaking of SBDC, actually, also for those who are interested, there's going to be you'll be able to get the Zoom link. It's from the Regional Chamber of Commerce Minority Business Alliance is going to be having Rebecca from SBDC, Rebecca Haydock, she's the director of SBDC, on next Tuesday at noon. So it's your little lunchtime Minority Business Alliance meeting. You can find it at Charlottesville Regional Chamber of Commerce, also the Minority Business Alliance Facebook page on Facebook. And you can find the link there to the Zoom meeting. There's going to be a lot of great information. Anytime we have Rebecca on, there's just so many resources that are out there for small businesses from that. So be sure to check that out this coming Tuesday. And then our question for today actually comes from Vanessa Parkhill. Thank you, Vanessa, for reaching out to Jerry. She asked, I think after our show last week, what about ESG investing? Can you tell us a little bit about what that means to do ESG investing, how that works? So we're going to do a little bit of a primer about ESG. For those who don't know, it stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance investing. And, I'll ask you a little bit about it. What are your thoughts on it as a starter?
Well, just to go a little deeper, just so that, because environmental, social, and governance, what does that mean, right?
Exactly.
So environmental is pretty easy. In other words, how does the company deal with their water management or energy management, things that impact the environment? How do they deal with that, right? How do they work in that department? Social is how does the company work with its employees? How does it deal with employees? How do they serve their employees? Do they have good health care plans? Do they have good diversity, et cetera? So the social part is the company and its employees. And the governance is the board of directors.
The board of the company.
And so basically is what type of board of directors do they have? Again, is it a diversified board? What's the age of the board? Are there women on the board? Other items that impact the company.
How it turns over, in other words.
Exactly.
Is it staggered such that you always have some continuity? Does it turn over all the time? Are there things in there to prevent hostile takeovers? There's a lot of things that happen on the rules of a company.
That's right. And so, there's been a lot of emphasis on these type of companies that are considered friendly in all three categories. The issue has come as to how do you define that? In other words, there are over I think there's about 2,000 between mutual funds and ETFs that say we are ESG. In other words, it's an ESG fund, meaning that we focus only on companies
that have good ESG
that have good ESG scores, right? But the question is, well, where does that score come from? Who decides that? And the issue is nobody. In other words, there isn't a set definition for that.
Defined standard.
Right now, everybody defines it their own way. So what happens is one fund can say, we're the greenest of them all. Well, that might be true, but how do we know? I mean, I've looked at funds that have over 1,000 securities in there, 1,000 companies in there. So you have to look at every one of these companies and say, is that true or not true? And how do we categorize them? Now, interesting enough, Europe is actually coming out what they call a taxonomy regulation. And taxonomy, I think Europeans like to use the big words. Taxonomy being scientific.
Yeah, I hear taxonomy. I'm thinking about the animals.
Yeah, no, well, exactly. That's right.
Which animals, what species?
I think of toxic. I say, wait a minute, we're looking at toxic. So anyway, taxonomy means scientific. And basically what they're doing is they're going to come up with a regulation. That regulation is going to start in January of 2022. In January of 2023, you're going to work on the social part. And then later on, hopefully, they're saying that maybe by the end of 23, they'll look at governance. So they'll have a rating system. And I think eventually, I know the SEC is looking into that also because it's important to try to find out how do we know, right? How do we know what's what? And to give you an idea, so let's say you have a car company, right? So obviously, they produce cars. A car company is considered really, from an economic point of view, it's a necessity, right? You can't just say, gee, nobody needs cars. Yes, we need cars. So the question is, the revenues generated by the car company, what percentage is, let's say, from an environmental point of view, what percentage of the revenue fits under the environmental umbrella? Right?
Exactly. So what percentage is like electric cars,
electric
hybrid
cars?
cars?
That's a perfect example. So let's say 20% of the revenue is electric cars. So they say, okay, 20% of the revenue is on electric cars. But they also look at it and say, well, in order to create these electric cars, did you use clean energy? Did you dump water into the ocean? That's bad water.
From the coal plant,
exactly. Yeah. Did you pollute the air? So that would deduct that 20%. But let's say everything else is good, and then you could say, okay, in that particular company, you get a 20% rating for environmental. And then they'll do the same thing for social, they'll do the same thing for governance. And so there'll be a rating system, and then you can say, okay, this company has a rating of X, and that one has a rating of Y. So when you go look at the funds, then the funds themselves say our average rating is X, right? So I think that will be good because right now we just don't know. And like I said, there are almost 2,000 funds out there. Now, the other thing I tell people is when you're thinking about investing, when you're thinking about, whether it be you're saving for a home, you're saving to buy a car, you're saving for education, you're saving for your retirement, it's important to think about is, my goal is X. I mean, I really like to achieve this particular goal in this particular time frame. And so the question is, are we then going to say, well, I also only want to invest in companies that do this, that are, environmentally, they're good companies. They're also, from a social perspective, they treat their employees well. From a governance perspective, they have a good board. If you start getting into the weeds, maybe what happens is that you forget about the fact that, what you're looking at is your future. So when you look at the historical returns of ESG funds, they sometimes aren't as good as just regular funds. And so the question always in my mind is, well, if I pick an ESG fund and I go through it and I say, well, there's 10% of the companies in here that are truly, I wouldn't put in there, right? In other words,
it's not even ESG.
Yeah, it's not really a solid ESG company, so why are in there? And then there's companies in some other mutual fund that I say, well, Jesus, 50% of these companies are already in that other fund, right? But sometimes you're missing other areas of technology. And I'll give you an example. I mean, there's that ETF, I think it's called iClean, right? So they only focus on companies
doing green energy.
Green energy. So why isn't that an ESG fund? I mean, really, every single one of those companies, they may be small, so maybe from a point of view of employees and governance, they don't have big boards maybe. They also, don't have maybe the same type of quality benefits that some of the big companies have. But why should that be a detriment? I mean, the most important thing...
So what you're trying to say is with the right portfolio construction, you can sort of create your own ESG in a sense of...
That's right.
I don't need to be going out there just finding ESG funds and assuming that because it says the letters ESG in front of it, that it actually has the companies I want. It's more, you can actually smartly construct a portfolio and say, all right, I want to lean ESG. I can do that with funds like iClean, with funds that are in areas that I like. Almost like a positive, because I know with ESG there's two ways to screen, right? Typically it's a negative screen. In other words, an ESG fund is like, well, just take your general S&P 500, your top 500 biggest stocks, and just kick out the gun manufacturers, kick out the defense contractors, kick out the
cigarettes,
the ones that do the tobacco.
Exactly.
Get rid of anything that doesn't look environmentally friendly.
Oil
companies, kick them out. So that's a negative screening.
That's right.
Versus a positive screening approach, which is less common, I think, right now, is, well, what companies do I want in there? How do I make a portfolio that has the companies that I think will grow, but also that will have a positive impact as opposed to just avoiding negative impacts. And they're really two different approaches, and so you have to be a little careful with the ESG funds, because some of them are just doing a negative screening. They're saying, well, just take out all these things, but there may be other funds out there that just don't even have those to begin with. Like I said, if you're doing iClean, you don't have to worry, is there an oil company in my iClean portfolio? Yeah. That's the point of the of the fund.
And furthermore, I guess what I was trying to say is, if you take a look at a huge index like the Russell 3000, right, and you say that covers most of the companies in the U.S., and then you say, okay, I want to eliminate 20% of those because they're companies that really don't fall into the category of ESG. Can you find that? Right, and by eliminating those, are you helping yourself or hurting yourself? And sometimes you have to say to yourself, as a person, you can promote clean energy, you can promote that your company does good things for obviously its employees, right? And you can certainly pressure the company to say, hey, your board has to be better, right? Even though investors are the ones that are better suited to do that. However, what I'm trying to say is you don't want to hurt your goals because of something that you at this point really can't even define, right? In other words, if there's a pure definition and you know that every single one of those companies fall within a rating category that you're comfortable with, then that's fine. I'm happy with that. But when you are investing in a fund, you say, wait a minute, how do I know that 10% or 20% or 30% of these companies really have trouble with their governance or their social or their environmental, right? Because they may be very good on the governance side, but terrible on the environmental
side, or vice versa.
Or vice versa, right. So that's my issue. So sometimes it's been such a catchy terminology, ESG, that everybody says, okay, I need to invest in ESG funds. Well, all I'm saying is, hold on, wait. You know, one needs to do the research, one needs to do the homework. All right.
Or talk to your financial professional.
It's what we do for a living, whether we like it or not, right? I mean, it's what we look at. We look at funds all the time. And so the important thing is finding the right combination of funds to achieve your goals is much more important today, right now, than just saying I want to be in an ESG fund. But again, the important thing is, what is ESG? What is it? And hopefully the SEC, they'll come together. And I know that there's been work already together with the European Union in order to come up with a definition. They've already have theirs on environmental. They're going to push forward, and hopefully that'll come to this country. So that
just more clarity.
Exactly.
Clarity and transparency for investors to know what am I invested in, and so you can invest in accord with like your values and your long-term goals.
That's right.
Financially speaking.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you, Vanessa, for that question.
Yeah, that was
we really appreciate it. And keep sending them to us. Don't hesitate to reach out to us with questions.
It's important because,
as you can see, we love answering.
Exactly. And people read this all the time. Like I said, when the topic becomes very hot, you see it everywhere. I mean, every other article is ESG that I see on my desk, right? And, some are worthwhile reading, and some is like, they didn't tell me anything.
Exactly.
In other words, I didn't learn anything, and all you're doing is promoting your fund. And now I got to do research.
Exactly.
Michael, research.
Michael, Nicholas, got to do some research. When Nicholas isn't being a social media ninja.
That's right.
He's doing research. Oh, goodness. Well, we're going to start off with a very fun guest.
Absolutely.
For our show today.
Right in front of us here.
Right here with us. We're joined by Lexi Hutchins. So she's the founder of Morehouse Studios, which is a beautiful little pottery studio here in Charlottesville. I had the pleasure of visiting it myself. It's a beautiful space. Out on Avon Street is the location. So
Avon Street Extended.
Avon Street Extended.
If you don't put in extended, then you'll end up in a trailer park.
In a different part.
Yeah, you
the
don't
easy part is basically right across the street from where you come out of the Wedmans, the back side of 5th Street Station. So if you can find 5th Street Station and come out the back, you'll find it.
Yep, exactly. Right next to Wineworks. So,
there we go.
Yeah. Good locations.
Nice,
little wine and pottery works well, right?
I know, right?
Beautiful.
Yeah, we try not to mix the two because of sharp tools and machinery.
Oh, I see.
But we send them over to Wineworks afterwards, so it's good.
After that pottery just come out the way you wanted it?
Yeah, kind of.
Well, you celebrate because it came out beautifully.
Oh, yeah. Could be. There you are.
Yeah, we should probably do the wine before they come, so then it will come out beautifully.
There you are.
No matter what. Exactly. Lexi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here.
Of course, it's so fun. So for those who don't know you, because I've known you for a little while, and I know you've been like such a creative and artistic person. You have you have these beautiful paintings that I've seen that you put them on cards, that are so beautiful. But what was the thought process for those who don't know you from switching to producing art, to creating a space for yourself and others to do so? Like, how did you end up creating like a Morehouse studio?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I actually have been painting for a long time and then working with a number of other small businesses in town. And I learned from when I was younger that until you have a vision of your own, to then first go and serve someone else who does have a clear vision. And for me, I've just had this passion for community and for creating and helping people kind of do what they want and take their idea and bring it down into reality. And so I actually started a consulting and branding business first. Okay. Still doing that, which is really fun. And which is Lexi Hutchins design, which is fun. And I love that so much. But then I just started seeing that there's this huge thing that was missing in my life, and it was clay. And so since I was 12 years old, I have been obsessed with clay, almost changed my high school because it didn't have a wheel. And so I was just so upset. And then a few years ago, I literally felt like I was missing a person because I didn't have this in my life. And it's been a big part of my family. So I think it's in my blood.
Clay runs in your veins.
Yeah. So then I started working on this project of wanting to redefine what does women actually look like in our community, and how do we present that? And so I had a business called Tomboy Creative, and that's where all my art stuff came from.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, so lots of paintings and stuff. Actually, kind of like came about in a huge way during the pandemic. It was just like, but I just really launched it in a big way. And then I just saw that like the word tomboy doesn't really match with doing a lot of women things, even though that's a part of it. It's a very small part of it. And so I just started brainstorming and had hired someone to help me with all of that. And then we just landed on this idea of actually an artisan community. And so it was actually going to be an online website. And then I ended up finding this. I had been teaching pottery classes at a school and finding this space that was kind of like a pottery studio undercover. It turned into a hoarding situation, kind of. So out of a plumbing supply studio, and I don't even know how I kind of stumbled upon this place. And then I just had this idea, like, well, what if? Well, actually, all these people started asking me for pottery classes. And so I just started playing around with that and thinking through it. And then this kind of opportunity presented. And then in like 3 weeks, my community and I just kind of like redid the whole space. And then it kind of happened. But it's been a thing that I've wanted for probably about 10 years, is a space for people, I don't know, just to like be themselves and to explore who they are. And I have these guidelines that I share every time we have a workshop or a class or anything. And one of them is that there's like more than enough. And so just like a lot of creatives think like, oh my gosh, like they got that painting commission or, or like that person's such a good photographer or whatever. I think it's actually a little different and more collaborative in Charlottesville. But really just to create a space where like we can all be creative. It's going to look different. And just like there's all these flowers, I'm really big into farming and stuff, but like just as much as there's all these flowers that are so different, there can also be like, and they're all beautiful. They all have room to be beautiful, all of the flowers. I think all the people have room to be, beautiful and creative and intelligent and, make something beautiful. So just creating a space for people to explore who they are and, get their hands dirty and do something new.
Now, do you have to know anything about pottery, before you go in there? I mean, I have no clue, other than the fact that I have tons of clay in my backyard.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know anything about pottery and how to create it. Now, do you help, or is just are there instructions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
so
okay.
I teach all the classes, which is
Okay.
good. Actually, I do put people through sometimes with the one-time wheel classes. I actually have them do it without any instruction first.
For the first time.
That must be
Yeah, because and some of my students know this because it's like a lot of times you actually appreciate learning a little bit more, and you're like, whoa, I really don't know what I'm doing. But it actually helps them get a feel for the clay.
Right.
And so, but you don't need to know anything. Actually, mainly everyone's a beginner, besides really one of our members who's 75, and I'm actually running to her with a lot of questions.
She's an expert in it.
Yeah, so it's really cool because we have all ages. Right now, it's anyone from like 10 years old up to like 75 right now.
Oh, wow.
And the goal is to have it to be very diverse in age, in every direction, and for people to be learning from each other. Just because I can learn something definitely from a 10-year-old as much as Pat, one of our 75-year-old members, and so we're all just like kind of figuring it out together, which is really fun. But yeah, there's a lot of instruction, and I really want people to walk away feeling like they learned something, but more importantly, like they had fun. So
That's amazing. So what did you? Is there anything like? Because I know I was so excited when you opened it up, and then I'm like, wow, just also like opening this up in 2021. Like, because we've interviewed some businesses that they're like, oh, I started right before the pandemic. Not too many are like, I started in the middle of it. I decided I'd go for it. Were there any, I guess, on the entrepreneurship side, like challenges of starting this as a small business type of thing that you either didn't expect and overcame, or any like stories of like turning this onto the business part, apart even just from like the teaching of the pottery?
Absolutely. Well, in 3 weeks we painted and did electrical work and like changed up and hauled out everything from the space, and it was really cool because we actually were able to help the owner of the space with that project because someone had passed away and they just hadn't gotten to it yet. So it was really cool because creating a really cool partnership with the plumbing supply company, which I'm like, plumbers and potters, who knew? But so in 3 weeks, it was this turnover from end of December to January. And somehow I got students and kind of just went all in and just cleaning up the place and everything. And then it was really great because so for like 8 weeks, they're like 6 to 8 week classes.
Okay.
And so 8 weeks, like figuring out how to teach these classes. It's the first time I've ever had a studio and understanding like, whoa, there's so much chemistry and science that's a part of ceramics and like the kiln firings and, you know, like the recycling clay. And there's just so much more. Like, how do you keep a clay studio clean? You don't. And so like, it's relative.
That's an easy answer. I mean, maybe hard to get to.
Yeah.
Because you try all these other things at first.
Yeah, like you were saying with the ESGs. That right. It's like you're trying to define what it is. It's like, okay, we're redefining clean clay studio. But I forgot to advertise, and so I was like, oh, because I filled up my first session of classes. So there's like a winter session, a spring session, a summer session, fall session, and I was like, wow, this is going so well. It's so great, and making inventory because we also have a little artisan shop, not just with me, but other local artisans.
Okay.
And then it was like end of March, and my classes were ending, and I'm making things for the next session. And you're for as a small business, you're doing everything. You're like, I have to make sure I have all the licenses, and I'm still waiting for approval on my sign. So you'll see that there's a sign on the door, but that's about it. And
we talk about that all the time. How much more is involved for small businesses
so
behind the scene,
like,
right?
Oh my gosh, it has made me like lift up and devote to buying local in a whole nother way. Having a shop, whereas it's different than being an online business, I think, which I was before. Exactly. And so, but then I didn't advertise, which I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do that too, besides like Instagram and social media. And so I actually had to ask my community for help. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And maybe warehouse is going to crumble. I don't know. And they're like, Lexi, it's just beginning. And all the members, all the students were just like, this is amazing. And we're just having this transformational time of finding community and being with people in a safe and socially distanced way. And so our classes are super small. But them just like finding that there's like people for them, and that like one woman who's she's from Armenia. She's actually one of our students. She's actually become a potter now, and she's like, in 14 years, I haven't really had community, and this is the first place I feel like I can be myself, and I'm finding community. And
that's awesome.
It's just like we're hearing those stories a lot, and that's really cool. But then they're like, Lexi, keep going, and they all just like were so encouraging. Started asking people for business advice and all these things, and then I actually I was like, oh well, I think I need to do a poster. So put those up all over Charlottesville. You probably maybe have seen them. They're in a lot of coffee shops. It's like a group of people that are essentially building a pot together. And a friend had that picture for me. He was like, yeah, I just see all these people building something together, like a big pot together. And so I just kind of drew that and used my branding skills for that. And then it was crazy because that worked. And it's just like, it's so crazy the things you forget about that. You're like, oh, I need to tell people about my business.
I got to advertise.
Yeah.
That's amazing that you have like the community that's sort of like, a lot of businesses, I can't say we all have clients that will come in and say, oh, I'll help you paint your building. I'll help you prepare this. We'll do some electricity together. It's like, have you thought at Allison and Xavier, are you advertising? Like, the community is just beautiful that they appreciate what you're doing so much that they're like, no, we'll help you do this. We want this to spread and you to continue to be able to do what you're doing.
It's so rare, and I do not take it for granted. I'm so unbelievably grateful for these people, and just they're really my family. I don't have any immediate family here, so they have just like become my family, and that's what's kind of happening there. And where people are like, oh, well, what do you need help with? And it's hard to receive, but they just want to. I think they're seeing and catching the vision, and they're seeing that it's theirs as well as like mine, and that's what I really want. And so it's really cool because they're like, oh, you got a new sign on the front of your door. They're noticing all the little things like, oh, you painted the floor. Like, oh, I saw that there's like a new basket. Like they all see the little changes, and they're like celebrating them with me.
About it.
Or they're like, hey, I'm going to give this to Goodwill. Do you need it? I'm like, yes, I do. So it's really been so neat because I think we all are just craving to be a part of something, and to know, like, for someone to know your name when you go someplace is so powerful.
It is.
That's
So
true.
I think that's something that I really want to help cultivate, is that, and especially younger adults as well as teenagers. I think that's actually my favorite age group. We're actually doing a camp, which is really fun
For them.
for
Ah,
10 to
nice.
15-year-olds. And which would be like, why do you love that group? They're like, they're the best. Like, maybe not for parents, but for me they are. And it's just like they have a place to be themselves and to explore kind of who they are in a safe place. And I've mentored a lot of younger women and some younger guys along in groups, but it's been really cool because it's for them to, I don't know, own a part of who they are and see that, they can create something literally right there with their hands, and it's going to come out and be something beautiful.
Exactly.
So, and useful. I think that's I love
Yes.
practical things. So it's like,
Beautiful, useful, and they created themselves.
Totally.
Which
Yeah.
is special, which is special.
I feel like that should be a tagline.
Yes. Beautiful,
That's
useful
great.
yourself. So before we let you go, where can people find you? Where can they get in touch with Morehouse Studios, or what's coming up next in terms of classes,
Yeah.
workshops? What can people who want to get their hands into that clay?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
can they find out about you, meet you?
Like the website's www.morehouse.studio.
Okay.
And then we're on Instagram and social media as Morehouse Studio. But you can come on by. It's 1575 Avon Street Extended. Remember the extended part? And then you can just always email us at hello@morehouse.studio. And so that's really great. But I have what we're really doing is we're doing weekly classes, so about 6 to 8 week classes. For the summer, we're only doing 6 week because people like to go away and have like shorter time periods, and not everyone can commit. And so that's actually been a big thing, that I have some single parents that want to do it, but they can't be away from their kids like every week. And so was brainstorming with some friends, and they were like, what if you did a punch card? And so just like kind of like an exercise studio, you can get like punch for like, five exercise things. So it's like you
So
actually
if you missed the second week or third week, that doesn't mean that you've lost 3 weeks, 2 weeks worth.
Yeah,
of
so this is actually, you would just sign up for the workshops. And so you just tell me, like, I've done 3 wheel workshops. I'm like, okay, then I know you're on your 4th one, so I know you're going to be doing glazing this week.
Okay.
And so for people, just that are traveling or just can't commit
Very
to
flexible.
that.
That's very nice.
But some people have been doing it for date nights too. And so it's been an awesome date night. Because it's like, what are you going to do? There's actually nowhere else really in Charlottesville doing one-time workshops for clay. And so you can make like your own botanical plate, make your own mug, make your own berry bowl, or try your hand at the wheel and you make something that's close to a mug or like maybe a bowl. Yeah, and we'll give you a complimentary bowl if yours doesn't go through, because there's a few steps that sometimes it doesn't work. Pottery's hard.
So you have one-time things also. if you
Yeah,
wanna
that's a
try
huge.
that.
Actually, that's actually one of the biggest parts. That's been morphing. That I wasn't expecting that, but that's what everyone's asking for. And then also team building opportunities. So you can bring a team up to 9 people, and we can do kind of team building stuff, and which is really helpful with my like background with consulting and stuff. To just like, how do you bring people together and encourage your team and work together in communication? So it's like there's that, and then there's the weekly classes, and then this camp.
That
And
is
the
awesome.
weekly classes is once a week?
Yes, so it'd be like
And the
Thursday
times,
nights.
any
yeah.
time or
So it's not any time, because our focus is actually we want this like widespread, and most people can't come during the day, and so we're actually trying to do afternoons for younger adults or teenagers, and then so it's mainly evenings actually, and then Saturdays afternoons, just trying to get more of that population group in there, just
Sure.
because that's really important to me. So.
Exactly. That's awesome. All right. So morehouse.studio, 1575
Avon
Street
Street.
Extended.
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 Even
Do
I
not
remember
forget
that
the
now.
Extended. And go check out Lexi Hutchins and all the beautiful artists at Morehouse Studio. It's a great place even to just stop in and visit and see.
Yeah.
the
We have
studio
a
there.
woodworker, and we have another potter, and then it's me right now, and those are our 3 artisans. But we're hoping to expand, which will be fun. And so just
That'll be awesome.
local
That's
gifts.
fantastic. That's
which is
great.
fun.
Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you for
us.
having
This
me.
was
This
fun.
is
This
so
was
fun.
interesting.
Yeah,
I
you guys
learned
are a
something.
blast.
A real
So
joy. Yeah, we'll definitely keep having you back as you grow.
Yeah. that'd be great.
And you can constantly be sharing with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Thanks, Xavier.
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, and so we're gonna switch a little bit here. That's
Absolutely.
so much fun. Always.
Yeah, that
always
is good. It's
to
always,
talk to Lexi and just,
yeah, you can see the vibrancy just in her smile, right?
And the passion.
And passion that she enjoys what she does. It's fantastic. So it's good.
Exactly. And so we're going to be joined shortly by Andrew Boninti. He's the senior VP for Charlottesville Brokerage. Going to talk about the Toad Building. I just love, even just on the subject of entrepreneurship, the idea of just the importance of. I think what Lexi said that really resonated with me was the knowing someone's name.
Right.
I think that's the
Right.
beauty of the local entrepreneur, the small business owner, because the names of the people.
That's
that
right.
come to
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. You go into the stores, and it's not just going to a store. You know their names.
Exactly.
You say,
the
hello.
person. There's a personal relationship. It's not, I'm one of a million customers. It's like, no, for small business owners, you're one of the small set of customers I have that I truly value
That's
because
right.
you made my business possible. So it's
Exactly.
just a beautiful thing to see. I'm really excited to see where that goes. I did not know about the one-time workshops. That also sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's
You know,
good
and
for
a
us.
little business to business there. I can see that. I think as we get back to normal, I could definitely see some small businesses here being about team building.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Team building
That's right.
exercise. Laugh with each other, have fun, see who can make something real out of the wheel instead of.
See who has any part of that right brain working.
Exactly.
The left brain, whatever part that is.
Who needs a replacement bowl and who has a
That's
bowl
right.
automatically
That's right.
that is theirs.
A mug that they make, and you pour a little coffee in, and it drips from the bottom. That'd be mine.
Oh, goodness. Speaking of entrepreneurship, we're really excited to be joined by Andrew Boninti,
Thank you.
Senior Vice President of Charlottesville Brokerage, because he's going to be talking with us about the Toad Building, which you've probably seen downtown,
That's right.
but which the acronym stands for Center of Developing Entrepreneurs. So, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today.
We really appreciate you inviting me, and just looking forward to talking about Charlottesville. Really, I've been here since 1971, so I've got a long run in this community. People tell me I still haven't gotten rid of my New York twang, but
Nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
I love New York.
You're here.
all right, there you go. But like I always say, I take the best of New York and brought it with me, and
There you
I left the other parts behind.
There you go.
So that's what I'm doing.
We appreciate that.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be involved
Sure.
with the Toad Building. That people, I think we've all seen it.
That's right,
And
yeah.
but I know when Nick, who was my brother, was chatting with you, sent the information. I said I need to look up on this. I've seen it, but I don't really know what it is.
Yeah, maybe we're the best kept secret in Charlottesville anyway. So our owner is Jaffrey Woodruff, who obviously a lot of people know in this community. He's done wonderful things for a lot of parts of our town, the university, and it goes on and on and on. And so he had a vision that he wanted to create a kind of a central location where the community could come together, workers come together, everybody comes together, have an exchange of ideas. You can, the fellow who's working in the coffee shop and's got his hat on backwards, right? So he's standing at the elevator next to the president of, a big company, and, exchange of ideas.
Right.
And that's what this building is all about. It's really about, as well as health and wellness. The whole principle of the building is to create a healthy work environment. So we have created something here, or just about to finish. It's going to be amazing. It'll be things that people have never seen before. And the irony of it is that with the pandemic, right, that has, a lot of the things that we were doing and that our mission was, are now like, this is the way you have to
That's
do
right.
things in
Yeah.
the pandemic.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, like, open your windows, right? I mean, what 9-story office building has operable windows? You're coming from New York, right?
None.
None. So when we started this, we were like, yeah, let's get fresh air in the building, not knowing that literally 2 years later, fresh air was going to be what everybody wanted. So it's been a fun experience, and at my age, it's just been really a pleasure to be involved in this. So,
That's awesome. Can you tell? Oh, go ahead.
No, well, I was going to say, so I read a little bit about the building,
Thank you.
and certainly, I look at the architecture. But one of the questions I had, because you mentioned about the tenants, and there's businesses there, and then there's open spaces,
Sure.
and there's conference rooms.
Yep.
And I I think there's going to be trees.
Yeah,
all
up
the way
on
in
all
the
of the
roof.
floors.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got pollinators of plants and everything. No, it is all thought out. But let me hear your question.
So no, my question is: so what percentage would you say are going to be tenants, people that literally live there versus businesses? Any idea?
Sure. We have no residential component at all in the building.
Purely
So
business.
it is just purely commercial. Little bit of retail. We have a couple of we call food stalls that are in our gallery or courtyard. But no, there is no residential component. Be all office, but it'll be everything from within the building. We have a floor and a half of co-working space, and it's called code-based co-working. And so that's where I was joking about the fellows with their hats on. They're working in the coffee shop. Now they can come in. They have a real address. They can pay a small monthly fee, and you have their mail delivered, access to conference rooms. We have podcast room. We have a lactation room. We have all kinds of things that the tenants in the building would be able to take advantage of. So there is. It's really a community building. We have a 200-seat auditorium that will be, for TomTom. Once we get back, hopefully, and things start rolling, we've made a connection between Water Street. If you see that, between Water Street and the mall, which I think is really going to be a walking path through the courtyard and everything else. So everything has been done with community, health and wellness involved, and it will be a LEEDs. You get a certified LEEDs Gold building or whatever. Different designation. This will get, obviously, because of us catching the rainwater and and all of that. We will be at least a LEEDs Gold building.
Wow,
which
that's
would
amazing.
be really exciting for this community as well.
That is. So to ask you a little bit of a challenge question.
Come on,
I might say it. So I think sometimes people see such a large building,
Right.
and the thinking is, all right, big companies, tech companies,
Sure.
that's who's coming in there. So what are some of the ways that the Toad Building is looking to try to, work with and benefit the small businesses, the local ones that are already on the mall around there?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. First of all, we consider ourselves you're anchored on the east end of the mall, obviously, by the amphitheater. We now are going to think we're going to be the anchor on the west end of the mall in terms of providing the energy and everything else. The small business person. Well, first of all, I think just bringing more people down on the mall.
Right,
I mean, I think all the merchants tell us get open, get the people in there. We want folks walking, buying, coming up and
That's
down.
right.
So,
That's right.
so I think that's
what it
the
needs.
first step. We get more people coming down to the mall. But to your specific question, I think the small business person benefits in that he can't afford the infrastructure of setting up his own office, right? He can't afford all of the equipment that you have to purchase, the phone systems and all of those kinds of things. So by coming into a building like this, where really all he does is bring his laptop, and every day he just picks a spot, he can sit, he can have a dedicated desk, he can have a floating desk, he can have a private office, depending on where they are basically in the food chain of development of business. Conference room, right? I mean, you're trying to pitch somebody in Seattle, and you're you're in Starbucks, and you're trying to you're trying to put a background, and that makes it look like you're in New York or somewhere. It just doesn't work. You come in our beautiful conference rooms, and it just creates a more professional atmosphere for people to come up with the ideas. And for us, it's about keeping local talent at home too.
Right.
I think a lot of local or university graduates as well. I'm a university graduate. I consider that local as well. But I graduated. I went back to New York because that's where the jobs were,
Sure,
right?
exactly.
And 6 months later, my wife and I, we were both from New York. We got married in college, and we both looked at each other and we were like, well, what are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
Yeah, so we turned around and drove right back 6 months later. So this is what we're trying, is people that would like to stay here, and you have some ideas, and you need to be surrounded by successful people. that's why you come and come to the Code Building. So that's what I think it's going to do for everyone. So
That's awesome. So can you tell us, I mean, and I don't know if you can you tell us any businesses that are already involved, or if not, which ones, what types of businesses you're looking for?
Well, you know, one of the ironies of the name is that it's not going to just be new businesses. We couldn't fill up this 9-story building with all these new businesses because they only need like, you know, a third of this space really. So we have a lot of established businesses, and I think before the pandemic, we'll be opening in September. So our first tenants will be opening. This is early opening, really, probably January of 2022. More of our tenants will start to come in, but you know, when we are opening with established businesses. I mean, it's you can't just have all startups. So Investure, which is a wonderful local investment community, they're over on Garrett Street. They're coming. Obviously, QIM, which is Jaffrey Woodruff's company, is coming. Felton Group is coming. And we literally are I think we're seeing the light now a little bit because everyone pressed the pause button. All right, so before we were open, I really thought the whole building would be leased before we ever opened. We had enough interest, enough letters of intent, you know, all of those kinds of things. But that all stopped. Everybody pressed pause. Where are we? How many people are coming back? Do we want to come back? I think people are beginning to realize that staying at home is great, but they're missing the people. And they're missing the batting of ideas off of things. So maybe they don't come back 5 days, but I do think we'll start to see, you know, a lot of people come back. So,
and it's perfect for those type of companies, right? That you don't have to be at work every single day, but at the same time, you need some people to come in, and then you have the ability to bring them in. And like you said, there's a conference room, and there's floating offices.
Absolutely, everything that you know, you have food. You know, I mean, all of these WeWork type things. You know, you can have your beer on tap, and you know, all there you go.
You're already visiting.
I mean, you got all of this kind of great stuff. So we're extremely excited. I personally am very excited, just you know, because I've been here since 1971. So
how about parking? I mean,
how dare you?
Well, I did read it.
Wasn't that on the list of things not to discuss? Didn't I present you with a list ahead of time? Parking. You know, it's funny because I've been grilled on this many times over the past 4 years, okay? And the downtown, if you build on the downtown mall, there is zero parking requirement. Okay, so you don't have to provide any parking. Okay, all right. I mean, I don't think people realize that if you're building,
I didn't know that.
You don't have to provide. So we're building a 167,000 square foot 9-story building, and we could build it with no parking. I know where the world is, and people still want to drive. Our owner's more of a forward thinking, and he was like, "Oh, that's great. We won't do any parking. People will take Ubers. We're gonna have electric cars.
Electric cars. They just
everything will drop you off. Right. You know, And I was like, well, I don't think that's going to happen like when the building opens. I said, and people are going to want to park. So, you know, you've asked me to sit at the head of the table. Can we put 2 levels of underground parking? He said, no. You know, he said, really, again, he's a forward thinker. And so we settled on 1 level of parking. So we have 74 spaces within the building. Not enough to accommodate all of the people. But we have, you know, obviously bike storage facilities. We have electric charge, you know, car charging things. We have everything for the future that hopefully that will wind up happening. And we have secured off-site parking that's been underutilized in some areas where we've gone to the owner and said, you know, you're not using all your parking here. We could use some of that, you know, for code. So we have a bunch of spaces like within a block or 2 of the building. But we do have 74 underneath. Right. Those are the premium ones, and we're dishing those out carefully, that's for sure. So,
nice.
Parking, yes.
Well, when you come from New York, that's the first question.
Exactly.
Where's the parking?
Where is the parking?
Right.
We've got to be in our cars. We have to be in our cars. So.
Exactly. So will there be any things community-wise in terms of like drawing people, like let's say someone's visiting the downtown mall and other things to sort of draw them into the building?
Yeah,
in that
I
sense, or-
think so. The building is going to be open. Within the building itself, we will have a little bar. They'll serve juice in the morning and stuff like that. Without sounding like I'm bragging or anything, I mean, obviously I'm proud of the building.
Of course.
But when the publicity really starts about this building, I think it's going to be something people are just going to want to come and see. I really do. I think it's going to be a feature in itself. It's going to be a national story, this building, on all of the sustainability features that it has. And of course, we have this gigantic amphitheater that you're going to have. We have a fountain with 26 jets that are going to be really cool. The building is open. It's open.
It's open all the way to
the
the
top?
top.
All the way to the top.
9 floors. You can look up and see the sky. It'll rain inside.
wow.
It'll rain inside the building.
It'll rain inside the building. Is that where you're capturing the water?
Well, not there. We're capturing it in other areas,
other
but
areas.
but if it's raining or snowing, it'll come in a portion of this inside courtyard that we have.
Oh, okay.
So it's a
Yeah,
courtyard
it's just right in an inside courtyard.
Wow.
But there are so many features that I think people are just going to. But again, with having all this outdoor space, that you're going to be able to sit down, have tables, you have your lunch, and oh my gosh, let me go in and see how cool this this building looks.
exactly.
And so I do think it will be an actual draw to the mall. But it's going to be a national story, this building. I mean, it's going to generate, Architectural Review and all of these magazines. I think
right.
this is going to get right up on the top.
No, I agree. And not only that, if they ever truly develop Water Street, right?
Yes.
That'll be great because then you have
beautiful
that
connection
common,
there.
you have that
absolutely.
way, from market to
Yes.
water, and then keep going towards the university.
Absolutely, and that was one of our attractions too. The university being closer to that end of the mall, we have a little bit of a connection.
Exactly.
I mean, our owner's a university graduate. I'm a university graduate. Our fellow running the co-working facility is a university graduate. So
Got one right here too.
okay, I mean,
Yeah,
so
exactly. I know that feeling.
we've always just tried to figure out how do we stay here? I mean, can we get a job that'll pay us some money so we don't have to leave? That's all. So I think there are a lot of people like that want to stay in this community. So.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So if people want to find out more about
Sure.
the building, where can they go? What are ways to sort of connect and reach out?
Absolutely. It's codebuilding.com is probably just the easiest way, and it has a bunch of wonderful things on the building. I think people will be very interested in the code. Let me make sure I get it right. Codebasecoworking.com.
Right.
Codebasecoworking.com, and that's going to be the specific facility, but it's going to be run by us.
Okay.
It's not like we're going to be, WeWorks come on in and take a couple of floors. It'll be run by us because we feel it's a very important part of the ecosystem of what we're creating. So that's where we are.
That is really exciting.
Yeah, no, I was reading, like I said, through the code fact sheet, and I was impressed. I really was, So
We've it's not anything that a normal developer can do, because in a normal development situation, you're trying to maximize the square footage, right? So you're not maximizing square footage by putting green roofs everywhere,
definitely
by
not.
creating courtyards, and so it takes a special person to want to do this, and he's doing it because of his love of the community, and he felt like this was something that we needed in order to keep homegrown talent to stay in Charlottesville.
Yeah, and I
And
mean
I think
anything to help revitalize
was
downtown
just gonna
mall,
say
really
that. I
get
was just
more
gonna say
people
that.
there, help everyone that's on that mall,
Yeah.
get some of those
Yes,
empty
spaces, sure.
filled by,
That's right.
by new
Well,
exciting
let me
people.
just say something. I know we have obviously time limits, but let me just say something about that. I've made the analogy, and again, I've been here since '71. So when I'm here, the mall is I'm driving through the mall, right? When I'm here, the town ends at Kmart at Hydraulic. The Kroger is a drive-through movie theater. So I've seen Jimmy Carter's 20% interest rates. I've seen, other different blips. I've seen 2007. I've seen the pandemic, and it always comes back. I mean, it's just, and if you are sitting in Monopoly, you play Monopoly,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
all right, we play Monopoly, right? So. We're Boardwalk. I mean, we're not Pennsylvania. We're not, Venter. We're Boardwalk. And Boardwalk may be down, But at the end of the day, Park Place and Boardwalk are going to rise, and I
bounce
think the
back.
mall's going to rise back up as well. It's just going to take some time and going to take a lot of effort from the community and a lot of people. And I think getting the music venues back, with Corin Capshaw and all of the ability to bring music back to the mall will be one of our first steps.
Oh no, and it's important because honestly, a lot of things come back, but you drive through America, and you go through a lot of towns where they died, right? Because they had all these other malls and everybody going to the malls, right?
That's right.
But it's very nice. We have a downtown that can be very vibrant, right?
Yeah.
It can be a great place for people to come and walk up and down that mall, go into different shopping places, restaurants, etc. So I think this building will certainly bring attraction, and I think it will be helpful, very helpful.
Yeah, I think you've hit on all of the main points. I think as long as people feel safe and secure, and and the weather's good, then I think they're going to come on out.
Exactly.
I really do. So.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining
This
us, Andrew.
was
It's been a
great.
real pleasure.
By the way,
Pleasure
that was a
to
great picture of you playing basketball in Virginia. That's
Did you like those? Did you like those short shorts, though? By the
Absolutely,
way,
yeah.
so that's the way we rolled back in the '70s, anyway. So, but better than that, and I will toot my own horn. Is I still play at 68, and
super.
I'm pretty much unstoppable, really, by most. And that's my New York coming out right there.
Where do you play?
I play down at Tonsler Park now, since all of
Nice.
the courts are. I would normally play at the Aquatic and Fitness Center. The college kids are playing pickup all day long, and so it's the great sport because you just go. You ask somebody who has next. They look at you and say, "Well, I don't think I want you." And then when they don't pick me up, then they regret it. Then they regret it the next game. So again, that's a little bit of the New York coming out. I got to have that little.
We love it. We love
a little bit of competition.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Really
Thank you,
appreciate you
Andrew.
coming
All
on.
right. Really enjoyed it.
Same here.
A lot of fun. Yeah, no, I'm excited just to see new things happening with the ball. Anything just to see the optimism, and the hope of things getting even better than they were before.
Exactly.
We don't
exactly.
Have to,
Listen. We were here yesterday, right? We went to
to
we
have
went
lunch to the whiskey jar.
Exactly.
Another
to
great
have a
fun
burger.
place.
And I was looking at the building, and now that the people are coming back, and I think that's what you need. You also need more people that are already there, businesses that are already there, and then just come down the stairs, walk down the mall, and that gets the whole thing going, right? Because people will come back to the mall if they feel that there's vibrancy and safety, and I think that's also important, right?
Well, and then the more people, I think, the more people that are there, you hit like that kind of critical mass where you're like, all right, I know if I go to the mall, there's going to be a lot of people there, so I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Instead of like, if I go to the mall, what if there's nobody there and it's quiet and it's just you deserted? You don't feel like going.
It's one of those things where you want to see people.
Exactly.
You don't want to go downtown mall and you're the only person there. It's
exactly.
Like, it's not what you want, right? You want to see people walking around, sitting down, having ice cream
bring
or coffee.
People, ironically.
Exactly.
People bring people, yeah.
So
Anna Francavilla Miniaci says, this building sounds very nice. Love the courtyard idea. Thank you, Anna, for watching. We love you here, too. Nicholas.
Yeah, I thought about that. I said, wait a minute. So there's an open build, but I can see what they did
I have to
now.
admit, so in my dense nature, when he said it's going to rain in the building, I'm like artificial? Like you're going to put like sprinklers on the thing? And then I'm like, no. He means that there's literally real rain in the building. And then Nicholas says, such a great show, no matter where you are.
Okay, so he's there.
I guess wherever he is, he is.
So mom can feel comfy
She
now.
can feel comfortable that he is there.
He made
a great show today, and
It
I
was,
know next week is going to be really exciting. Also, we're putting together maybe the beginnings of some Latino real estate agents.
That's right.
For sure we're going to be joined at least by Ana Antigua, and she's a realtor at Mi Casa Charlottesville. So we're really excited to looking forward to next week also.
That's right.
Which
That's
is
right. And
gonna
maybe,
be a
and
lot
you know,
of
I did
fun.
ask Johan, and maybe he can make it too.
Yeah,
Johan
we're trying to put together
and talk a little bit about real estate and how the Hispanics are making big moves in that area and
Exactly.
and the needs that they have and how we can. I mean, today on the way here, so I was hearing a commercial about the inspector, right? An inspector for homes, and he's been around. Obviously, his whole family is third generation or whatever.
Wow.
But there's another area where if you're Hispanic and you have knowledge on how to build houses or how to renovate,
you could
there's
go
an
into
area
there.
of business that you can go into.
Exactly. So many opportunities. and it's really just exciting to share.
So I'm
them
looking
with
forward
people.
to that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm looking
that
forward to
should
that
be-
as
that should
well.
be good.
Before we let you close, don't forget again, Restaurant Revitalization closes on Monday. Check out Central Virginia Small Business Development Center. You can find them on Facebook. You can also, the easy way, go to Today Mañana Facebook page, and you can click the shared link, which will take you directly to Central Virginia SBDC's Facebook page. And so that's a great way to get in touch there. As always, I mean, thank you all for joining us. We always appreciate our sponsors, Emergent Financial Services, Cristel Noel, powering sponsors, State Farm Agency, and Forward Adelante. Thank you, Judah, as once again for being our mastermind
Absolutely.
here. Jerry and the I Love Seaville Network, always fun to be on here and just talk about the city we love and all the people we love.
They keep changing the setup on us, so I keep getting confused where I'm supposed to sit. Although I sit
The
the same place all
directionally
day.
challenged. You're like,
That's right.
where am
It's
I
like, now I
this
gotta
time?
look left or right.
Who do I look at now?
But I got the microphone right this time.
Exactly.
There
That's
you
the
are.
important thing. Judah did not have to come and
No,
move
definitely,
the
definitely
microphone.
not.
So
Yes.
you looked good the whole
Well, I gave
show.
him $10 before that. I said, "Don't come no matter what."
No matter what. Even if they can't hear me, don't touch this
That's
microphone.
right.
But nice to have you back.
Thank you.
I'm
to
very
be
glad
back.
Mike was on, and nice to have you back also. So, maybe one of these days we'll have.
I
all
have
three
big
of
shoes
us.
to fill. Hopefully, I did my job.
Oh, hopefully, I think you did okay. You did okay. They may still miss Michael, but you did well this week. And thank you, of course, as our audience for joining us. As always, be sure to just send us if you have a question that you'd like Xavier and I to cover at the beginning of the show. Let us know. Comment and let us know who you'd like to feature. If you got some,
Sure.
especially Latino entrepreneurs, if you know them, send them our way. We love having them on. We just love sharing just the good news
That's right.
about people
Their story
doing
and good
amazing
news.
things, great stories, great passion. So thanks again for joining us. Until next week, we will see you. Hasta mañana.